Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first day for a new training batch for HP Unified Functional Testing. Welcome and thank you so much for being here. What we're going to do today, team, is primarily take you forward in the next steps of going through our project based learning to be able to master HP QTP/UFT. So, team, before we get started with the day one, I just wanted to let you know that we did an orientation session uh, last week, and in that orientation session, I went through the different aspects of what we're going to be doing, why we are doing this HPQTP, how do you participate in this specific training with ITE Learn, what are the prerequisites, very importantly, and how you could choose to go through the live training or the video based learning and which one could be the best suiting for each of you, right? So I am assuming each of you have gone through that orientation session video, team. Now, in fact, let me quickly also create one more poll for this in a second and see if I can get the audience to give me some feedback as to what level have they gone to so far. So one quick question creating this. Orientation session video. Okay, sounds good. So this is there. Now, team, I'm going to launch up a couple of polls just to get an idea from the audience as to what you have done so far, and help me answer this. Just a few seconds from your time, and then it'll be easy. So here's the first question. Very simple. Have you seen the orientation session video? Because in that session, I have gone to the depth of explaining how this program is going to work, how you're going to be participating, and what we will be doing. And team, I don't know who's answering, so you can be I just want you to be honest, so that way I know how the audience is placed and how we can go about. Okay, so I've got about 61% votes in. I'm going to give another 10 seconds for everyone to get the votes in and share the result with all. 75% votes in, another 3 seconds, and then I'm going to close, please. All right, so let me close the poll. So here are the results. We've got about 78% saying yes, and we've got about 22% saying no. So for the 78% people who've said yes, I hope you've got a good clarity and most of your questions regarding the program have been answered through it. For the 22% of you who said no, team, I will definitely recommend for you to go back and please see that video again. Now, if you go to itelearn.com, you will find that video on the home page. I'll quickly guide you where this is. So I'm going to hide these results, take you to the home page, and under online courses, you should be able to go to HPQTP UFT training videos. Or even under events, if you go to UFT live training, April 2015, you should be able to see that out there. So here is the orientation session video and what was covered in it. All right. We spoke about introduction to the overall program, job market, how the training will be conducted, tool installation, and so on. So all this information is there out here, team. So please do spend your time, the 22% of you who have not done it, to go through it. Now, I have another follow-up question. This is primarily then to the 78% of you. Have you gone through the videos that I've suggested in this orientation session, and are you ready to take it to the next level? The reason I will tell you is very simple, team. There are always different starting points that we can have for a training. The starting point can be a ground zero, or it's like trying to climb a mountain. You'll have different levels and base camps where you go, get acclimatized, be comfortable there, and then take off from there. So, depending on how much of skill or learning we have done, it will only shape us next into how quickly we can go through this training and how effective it can be for us. So I just wanted to hear from the audience. About 60% votes in again. Another few more seconds, please. Then I can close it. Very simple question. Have you gone through all the videos, or just some of them, or none of them? Because that gives me a lot of perspective, team, how serious are most of the people and where they are. Because end of the day, in today's world, the biggest challenge that each of us face is not that it is tough to learn new things or very tough to get into very hardworking zone. It is just very tough to keep focus and keep pushing ourselves to do something, be it you're managing your personal family priorities on work friend or your fitness or anything. It's just how much can we push each other, how much can we push ourselves in doing anything. That is very important. So team, about 81% votes in. I'm going to close it in 3 seconds. This just gives us a good perspective, and it'll help us to set everything in place. So I'm going to close the poll, and here are the results. So we've got about 31% saying yes. Thank you so much. 31% is a good number. It's not a bad number at all. Who have sincerely put in that effort and time. That shows the seriousness that you have, and you should definitely congratulate yourself and tap yourself on the back that you have decided to put that effort, uh, taken my words, trusted me with the confidence, and did that. 53% is some of them. And that basically is saying that you've watched some of the videos, not everything, and I want to be able to build that up for you as we go along. 16% have said none. So team, the challenge is for the 16%. How will you go catch up before we get into day 2? Now we have a weekend. Now, if you are serious, if you believe that this is the right program and this is the right time, then go for it. Spend a little time. As I said, it's just 5-6 hours of videos. Just watch it like a movie. Watch the orientation and watch this. I think there'll be commonality between the 16% and the 22% that we saw who have not seen the orientation session video. So start from there and get to here. It'll be easy. Now, for the 53% who said you watched some of them, please, this is a good opportunity for you to go forward and make sure that you watch the videos I've shown, and that way it will become very easy for us. Okay. All right, team. So polls done. We're all set. Now let's get into the actual day 1 session and how we're going to go about. Now, the way I want to be able to plan, team, is this was before day 1. I'm going to take one more document, and for, as I said, we will always keep taking this as a project. So this, I'm going to call this as project 1. Okay. HP UFT A 15th, is it? May 9th. Okay. May 9th. So I'll just say May 9th. May 9th. Sorry, team. So this project 1, what are we going to do in this and how are we going to go about? Okay. Now in this project 1, I will have some basic assumption on what you know. Okay. Assumption / prereqs. And then we will talk about what scope of this specific project. Okay. So the assumption is you know the basics of automation. That's the first thing. Fundamentals of automation. So when I say fundamentals of automation, team, what is automation? How does any automation tool, okay, be it QTP, or rather UFT right now, Selenium, or any automation tool, how does it work? What is the concept behind it? Okay, understanding of how UFT looks at various objects on a web app or a desktop app, doesn't matter, because that's the advantage of UFT that still stands out. It's just not for web. Okay. You also know what an object repository is, and you know how to add and maintain objects in the object repository. Okay. Very high level basics of VB script. Nothing advanced, just basic VB script, how it is. And to the extent where you are able to give simple commands to perform any given test step using a script automation script. Okay. Now, what are the things that I don't expect you to know beyond this right now? Are things like not essential at this point. So just to let you know that you are in safe zone, you're not in a very complex zone. For example, descriptive programming. You don't need to be having a good idea on these things. Okay. Inner works on how objects get recognized. Even this you don't have to worry too much, team. Okay. So to a certain extent of object repository, add and maintain objects in the object repository, and object identification. Actually, in fact, even this you should be able to know. Object identification and object spy. To that, till that extent, you don't need to really go to that uh, exact details of it. That is okay, even if you're weak, because most of what you see, team, we will repeat it again. It's just what project do we start on how objects get recognized. Then advanced programming or VB scripting, and any type of frameworks. So I'm not expecting you to have any skill in this area. Am I being clear as to what I'm expecting and what I'm not expecting? Now, how do you go through this fundamentals of automation and so on? Like I showed you, we have this document out here which you could refer to. Please watch and follow instructions from this one. Okay. All right. Now, having said this, let's talk about the first project, what we want to be able to do. All right. For the first project itself, we will start to focus at a little higher level, team. We'll not start with a very basic level. We will build our own custom data driven framework on a simple web app that has various types of objects, and the web app also is data focused. So what do I mean by data driven framework? What is a framework and so on is one thing. Okay, that's the first question you all should have in your mind, team. Instead of me trying to give you a theoretical approach and an idea of to what a data driven framework is, I want to take it through a very practical approach. I'm going to show an application, we're going to take UFT, and we're going to start doing it from there. All right. Now, team, at this point, I hope you all can see my screen and audio is good. Can someone give me a quick feedback over the chat that we all good out here? All right, great. Excellent. Thank you. Uh, I've got one feedback. How can to zoom in so that the text is easily visible? There you go. Is this better for everyone? Okay, and the web app also is data focused. So this is what we're going to try and get into, team. The other thing is, so far, I am not expecting that you have installed the trial version, because even in today's session, we will not open HP, UFT or QTP. We're not going to touch it yet. In the day 2 is when we'll start touching. We will do our initial planning and preparation for starting automation on day 2, and that is very critical, team. Lot of times what we do as humans as a mistake is we jump straight away by opening the tool and say let's go, and we don't give enough emphasis on the planning portion, and that is something that I'm going to continuously teach you. It is just not a HP, QTP or UFT training or VB scripting or descriptive programming. This training will also focus on how you can be a successful automation engineer overall and build a solid career. Okay, so when I talk about the approach and so on, you will understand and realize that okay, there's a value to doing this, and when you do it in this particular manner, that is when you'll get the true appreciation from your projects and your companies. Okay, so we're going to talk about a plan and so on. So to do this, I'm going to take a new Google Sheet team. I'm not going to use a Word document anymore. That way I have more structure in what I can do. And out here, I'm going to say, rename this to a high level plan. Can someone tell me what a high level plan is? Scope data driven framework. Application under test, we don't know yet. Start date, end date, okay. Out of scope, rather I'll first say what is in scope and out of scope, and then I will talk about step description status. This is a high level plan that we're going to be putting together, team. So where is this? Why can't I see the controls out here? Interesting. Is it hidden somewhere? Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to figure out why I can't see any of these controls. I could see it here, but not here. I wanted to zoom this also, team. And okay, that's fine, not a problem. Now, team, I just asked a quick question: what a high-level plan is, because there's a lot of notions that we go with, team. A lot of people have said that it's a detailed plan to go in a very detailed manner. Is that what a high-level plan is? Right, it is not, team. High-level plan is never going in depth. It is only touching at a very, very high level, like from a 30,000 feet above the earth. When you're, let's say, free falling, or when you're flying in an aircraft, you have a high level view of things. Just, oh, okay, where is what? Here is a water body, here is a mountain, and so on. As you go deeper, as you get closer, you will get a more detailed idea or a view. Okay, so the word high level is only meaning that you're getting uh, at a very 30,000 feet level the overall idea, and then when we get into the nitty gritty specific details, that's when we get into a detailed plan or a low level plan. All right, just a wrong notion that a lot of people we have, so I'm trying to kind of get that out of our system. And here what I'm trying to do is I'm putting together as to what the different aspects are. When are we starting today's, which we're going to put as today's date, 4/17, and we will be ending this in about 6-7 sessions, and that should be around the 24th tentatively. Okay, this specific project we're going to end around the 24th. What is in scope? Again, I will come to you at a detail level, and what is out of scope. Now, application and a test is very important, team. The description of what we do can be application independent. In fact, if time permits, we will try and repeat the same data driven framework, what we do in 5-6 sessions. With a new one, we can do it in one session using the same structure, plan, everything. It's very easy for us to implement. So typically what I try and do, team, I take any kind of a financial site like a mortgage loan calculator, all right, or I could take any kind of a travel site and so on. Why are we trying to take such kind of websites to be able to work and arrive at our projects? Because our goal, team, is not about trying to have a very complex application. Our goal is not that. Our goal is how can we master QTP and unified functional testing. That is our goal. So if our focus is in trying to understand a very complex application, then our purpose of the goal where we're saying, hey, let's focus on QTP will kind of get nullified. The second reason being the fields and so on that we see out here, we have like drop downs, we have text fields, we have just labels, buttons, links, and so on. So you get a good idea to play around different types of objects. The third thing being it is also very data sensitive. So depending on what amounts I enter here, things will change. We could talk about such websites or websites like, let's say, for example, kayak.com and so on. The only reason I'm not touching kayak.com is it's a little dynamic website and it is absolutely automatable. There's no question about it. But just the fact that once you start clicking on something, things will start showing up and the application starts changing its UI and so on. So at this point, what will happen if I take kayak is our focus will go away from a very smooth basic flow and our focus will get into how do we handle such complex issues and so on. We will definitely get there, but it's a little early. So we're trying to take our first, not baby steps, just the infant steps. Okay. We are in the toddler age group in terms of learning something, and we're trying to take our infant steps. Baby steps you should have taken by the videos that I've asked you to watch. If you've not got a chance, please go back. Plenty of time over the weekend, just 5 hours. Watch those videos and you're all set. I'm not expecting you to master. In fact, even if you have not seen any of these that I've spoken about, that is still fine. You just need to be patient and you'll be able to catch up. Okay. So if it's fine with everyone team, or unless you have some kind of a suggestions to me which you could very freely give it to me over the chat, I wish to go back to mortgagecalculator.org for this project. Let me know, please. If you have a better alternate URL that you propose, this is a good time and you could do it. Or it could also be something that we take it as project 2. So as of now, I'm keeping this. If you have any good suggestions, keep thinking about it as you think through the weekend. You may come back to me and say that, hey, Karthik, you know what? I found this. Why don't we go with this? That's absolutely fine, team. Okay, so this is going to be the URL for what we're going to do. So in scope and out of scope as to what we will do, team, which will be a little bit more larger. When we get to that next stage, we will talk about it. All right. So what are the steps and description and status? What do I mean by this? Very simple, team. Let us say that you are getting into a complex project. For example, you're planning for your kid's financial freedom by the time he or she gets into college or any kind of higher education. You want to be able to plan finances, you want to be able to plan a career and line, right? So depending on that, you can go to a kind of a consultant or some kind of a financial advisor who will suggest what you should do. So you say that here are my wants, this is what we need to do, this is my goal, how do we get there? And that advisor or consultant will give you the detailed plan saying that where you should start, when you should start, how you should do, and so on. That having planned it in a very perfect manner, then it is your execution. The toughest thing we as humans get into team or a lot of times in IT projects is the decision making capability to decide what projects to accept, to decide how do we go about doing it, to decide what are the exact steps in executing. Once we take that decision that this is going to be approach, then execution is much more simpler. But if we don't decide at that time, it becomes tough. And that is the fundamental reason we try and emphasize on creating a plan. So we're talking about to build this data driven framework, what are the things that we need to do, how we're going to go about. So the first step in this case, team, is to write test cases, case or cases. Okay, and we have done no progress on this, so I'm putting it as status as 0%. In fact, even before that, I would like to start with doing a application under test walkthrough. What that application is, how does it work, and so on. Then we will write the test cases that we need to be automated. Okay. What is the test case? Now, for each of this test case, write the detailed test steps for each test case. Once we do that, then we will talk about identify the test data that is required for each test step. And I'll talk about these things, team. When we go about implementing it, it'll become easy for you to see and understand how we are progressing. All right. If anything that I write here is Greek and Latin, that is not a problem, because the only way we will be able to learn anything is by exposing ourselves to the challenge of something new each day. We will try and go through that hurdle of how we learn new things each day. And identify the objects in application under test. 6. Add the objects to the object repository. And this is where, even if you have not gone through those videos, we will still be able to do it. And while I do it, I'll show it to you again. So it's going to be a revision for you. You're going to look at it again and get more and more comfortable. The only way we'll master everything, team, is by constant practice on the same thing. And definitely towards the end of this program, you'll be one of the top consultants who is ready in the market for HP, QTP and UFT. That is the goal. If you don't share the same goal, then there's no point in putting all this effort in. You should have the confidence, you should have the willpower, and this is how we're going to go. Add the objects to the object repository. Verify with, actually we don't need to verify. Now, write the automation script for each test case. Then create test data and local variables in the script. Okay. Write a code to read. Did I write it? Identify the test data? No. Okay. Create a set of test data to run these test cases on. 10. Write a driver / code to read this test data into the automation script. How many of you are seeing clarity in what I'm writing, and how many of you are a little lost? Can you please ping me on the chat and let me know? Execute the test case on various sets of data. 12. Perform a debug run to ensure the code works in the exact fashion expected. All right. 13. Write a code to take the test results back to an external source for sharing / review. All right, so we've put about 13 steps to what we want to be able to achieve, team. Are we all clear with what I've been putting here? If you look at my pace for the first session, it's going very gradual. I'm not pushing it too hard at all. The idea is very simple. I want you to understand this is a project. We are trying to implement a project. We're all working together in seeing how we go about. For example, if you've joined a mortgage company as a junior intern or a QA engineer and so on, and this is your first time project, and I am acting like your lead, I'm making you sit besides me and show you how we're going to do it. I will say that, hey, Vidya, Anil, Satish, so many of you out here, how we're going to go about executing it, and I'm trying to guide you. So I want to make sure that you are comfortable. Okay, that is the intent. Now, what is an external source? External source is basically, for example, you have the application is one, then we have the script as one, and then we have source where you read information from. So let's say, let me use paint for this, paintbrush, and try and talk about a few things here. Okay, so there is this application that is there under test. What is an AUT? Application under test. The application which we are interested to test and make sure that it is working fine. Okay, so the overall process of manual testing and the whole reason of testing is just make sure that the application is performing as per the requirements, or the application is behaving in a way that users will have a defect free usage of that specific product. Be it a car, be it a website, or anything, they can all have issues. And even if you see today, team, there are so many recalls that happen. Why do recalls happen for automobile industry? Because poor testing. They have not been able to oversee some testing, or sometimes things start breaking early over a period of time and they have not well thought about earlier. So there's this, that need will never die, team. Okay, of testing, making sure that the quality is as expected, as per the norms. The second one is your UFT or QTP scripts. All that we will do, all that we will execute, where we write our VB script, where we add our objects to the object repository and so on, that becomes one other thing that we will start interacting. So you have application that we will start working with, and you'll also have the UFT that will start working with. The third thing are external sets of information. For example, we are using the Google spreadsheets, right? So the Google spreadsheets, how are they helping us? To store our plan, test cases, test steps, and so on. We may also use an Excel, an XML, okay, a notepad, just a plain text file, or a database to be able to store any kind of a test data. It could be anything. The concept is going to be the same. The only difference is going to be how and what extent will the code be smart enough to be able to read the information from those various sources. All right, that is what we will need to focus on, team. Now, so you have the application, you have the code, and you have these things. This gives you a layout of what we're going to be talking. So anything that we will do will be under these realms. It will not go beyond. All right. Now, having said this, let's talk about going through the first step. Let's do an application walkthrough very quickly and try and understand what this application is and how we're going to be performing. So the idea is very simple, team. Anyone in the industry of mortgage or any visitors, be it if you go to a Redfin, or let's say you go to a Zillow or a realtor.com or this, all of us, when we're trying to do a purchase, we try and estimate what kind of a house we can afford. And I'm not sure how many of you have already been through the process of purchasing your home, or maybe planning sometime in the future. You still have to know where you are. Are you in that half a million zone, 700 zone, a million plus zone, and so on? How do we know? It all depends on what you have and how you can spend it. These mortgage calculators will help you in understanding that decision. How much are you going to be spending a month? What is your current uh, savings? How much is it needed there, and so on? That gives a tentative. Let us say that we are someone, I have a budget of about $2,200 that I can spend every month on a home that we wish to purchase. So any visitor that comes, mortgagecalculator.org is one place which gives you very simple access to a calculator that gives you that. So right now with these kind of numbers, there is a specific monthly payment that is shown. So if a home value is 300,000 and the loan amount is 250,000, what does that mean? How much of it are we putting as our own cash into it? We're putting the difference, which is 50,000. So that shows how much money we have. Let us say we have $100,000. Okay, that's our budget. So, and for example, if I take this to 400,000 and I change this to 300,000, and let's say the interest rate is not that healthy for us and it's about 4.5%, we take the standard 30-year term. We select when we plan to take, July of this month. There is a property tax and there's a the mortgage insurance on it. So these two can get added, team, specifically if you are not doing that complete 20% down and so on. Property tax is standard. You don't even have to worry about calculating it right now. You could do it as you go about, but I think first year itself you have to pay. Now, on your parameters, we're going to click on calculate and see how the result is going to come. So we've got a 1520.06. What does that mean, team? For a user, it means that the user has the ability to go higher. I don't need to necessarily look at a 400k mark. I may go to 500 and see how this is going to shape up, and click on calculate and see. So we're getting closer to the $2,200 mark, right, per month. So let's try 550 now. Okay, 450. So you see what a user typically comes and performs here. So 20 to 80. So closer to that range. Now the loan that I'm looking at is about 450. So I could easily go a little over $500,000 in the total value of the property. Now, what did I just do? I just told you how a typical user makes use of this application. Now, mortgagecalculator.org as a company, as a team, will need to work behind the scenes to make sure that the user has all the information, all the features that make this job easy and give all the outputs that will help them, in understanding how the mortgage will work for them. That is the application team. In the same line, if you look at, there are lots of other informations. For example, the balance graph, the repayment chart, amortization graph, and so many things that we understand, a lot of things that we don't understand. And it also talks about total, how much interest are we paying, what is the tax, uh, mortgage insurance, and when the payoff date is, and so on. So we get multiple sets of information depending on what the input. So we are looking at a way where a simple user, is coming in and he or she is trying to put their own specific information into this application under test, which is a box. And depending on what the user is entering, the output is coming that way. So there is a specific set of input that is going in, and there is a specific set of output team that is coming out. All right, and this we have to build. What is the input? What is the output? Okay, so when we get into this step of um, create test data and local variables in the script, we will talk about exactly that. What will be that input and what will be the output? But the fact is, you change the input, your output changes. You change the loan amount, your monthly payment changes. You change the start date, your end date will change, and so on. That is the concept that we need to familiarize ourselves with. So now that we've done a quick walkthrough of it, we can just say that 80%, 85% of it is done. Why 85? Why not 100? Because we have not yet seen a lot of other features within the application that can be relevant. Now let's talk about writing a test case team. Why do we need a test case? Why do we need to write it? Why can't we just open it and say, hey, let's start recording using a record and run feature, or opening it up and going? Very simple team. As part of testing field, okay, manual testing, automation testing, irrespective of it, we are one of the most important documentation specialists in the organization. We are a combination of technical people, combination with a business analyst kind of people who understand how the business and the applications work, and we are also very strong in a documentation ability, because what we document and how we retain is something which is extremely well utilized, and that has to be very clean and precise. So when I say test case, what do I mean? I want to be able to identify each and every activity that a user can perform starting to ending through a defined test case. That way I know that if a user comes and does A, B, C, what is expected. If he or she comes and does B, C, E, what is expected. So depending on the specific steps that any user performs, how does the application behave and what can be expected. If it does not work in the fashion that it is expected, when you execute a test case, that is when you report a defect or an error. All right. So to do that, we will organize ourselves and we'll say there are certain test cases that we'll put. So there's a test case ID. I'll say a test case name and any kind of a description or status. I'll just say status. And let's say we also talk about a result at the end of it. Okay. So what do we mean by test case ID? A unique identifier, just like we have a vehicle identification number or your social security number and so on, a unique identifier. It could be something like MC for mortgage calculator. I will say basic underscore TC001. So how do I classify it this way? It just gives me an ability to look at and say MC is okay, it's under the mortgage calculator arena. Basic will say is probably referring to the fact that it is a very basic functionality. We're not getting into any specific. Now, there could be more test cases where we'll say output parameters based, or we'll talk about how to get today's best mortgage rates, or we will talk about test cases that are more focused on repayment charts. So this we are trying to be at the basic level. And if you continue to look, there are so many other features that are available across. So if you start looking at the number of test cases, it will go into a few thousands to be able to write all the test cases for this application. Everyone with me so far, team? All good, everyone? Any questions this early into the session? Will you be going through UFT, like how does it look like, menus, etc.? Absolutely yes, in the next session. And the reason I did is I want to push the forward of installing your trial version on your system so that you get the maximum amount of time to be able to practice, team. If you seen in the orientation video also, I said don't install, don't worry about installation and so on. Just focus on watching the videos. Forget about installing the tool. This is getting recorded, right? Let me make sure. I usually, once I did that error in this, a few thousand training sessions that I've performed so far. Yes, this is getting recorded. I do not see any chat session. Purandar Boya, this is the chat session you're having. This is a question and answer session. So that you're having one-on-one with me, because there are closer to 100 participants in each session. We don't want that kind of to get disturbed for the attention of everyone. That's why you interact directly with me and my technical team. All right, cool. So we have this test case. Now let's talk about test case name, team. I'll just say basic loan calculator, okay? Or monthly payment calculator. I want to be precise, okay? I'll say monthly payment calculator. Now, as part of this, my focus is going to be what my monthly payment is, not the total interest paid, not the total payment at the end of the total term, or when the date is ending and so on. So you see how precise we're trying to get to? We are saying that each of these things should be a different test case. Why? We want to make sure that we have covered all the possible routes that a user can perform. A user will come, really randomly click here, then do that, then do this. So we're trying to recreate all the scenarios and routes that a user can take and make sure that is documented, and that way we will execute it accordingly. Status is we are still building it, so not yet ready. Okay, so I'll just say not ready. It's not ready for execution. So what do I need for it to be ready for execution? I want to be able to give a detailed level of test steps to each of them. Now you see how we're slowly building all our documentation in a structure, and if you look at it, that's exactly what we are trying to plan. So this I'll just say 20%, and write the detailed test steps for each test case is what we're starting now. And here I'm going to do something similar to. I'll say there's a test case ID, there's a test step ID or number, step name, and we will talk about what next in a short while. Okay. Now, test case ID is primarily the fact that for every test case that we create here, we're going to take that and build a few steps for it. For example, the first step here is open the website. What website do we open? It is the URL mortgagecalculator.org, correct? So I need to be able to fill in this information somewhere. What website? Open the website is fine. It's like saying start the car. But which car do you want me to start? Let's say we have about 4 cars at home. So you need to be precise and say what, how, and that is where your extra data, test data, may come into play. Okay, and we'll say that this is the data for it. Open the website. Now for the same test case, we are not yet done thing. There may be multiple steps that we will perform, and so I'll just start putting this information here, and we are building this template. Once we have this template ready, it is very easy for us to go about adding new test cases and new steps. Now, what is the second thing a user would do after they've come to the website? They would enter a home value, then a loan amount, then an interest rate, loan term, and let's say that we ignore property tax, start date, and PMI. So we'll talk about home value, loan amount, interest rate, loan term. Okay, that's the next 4 steps that is relevant out here. So I'll just say enter home value, enter loan amount, enter what's the next one thing? Interest rate, and enter loan term or tenure, however you call it. So these are the important ones. Now we will talk about what are those home values that we want to enter. The home values that we are looking to enter is 550, 450, 4.5, 30. These are the values. So let me quickly put that there. 550,000. Is it one zero more? No, I think this one. 450,000. Interest rate is 4.5. Loan term is 30. This is what we do. After we do this, what do we do, team? We click on calculate. So once we click on calculate, then we get our results. So if you look at each of the steps needed some kind of an input. The input is what I was talking about out here. Okay, that is this input that we are talking about. And you change any of this input, the output will change. There are things where you just perform a step, there is no input to it, team. Let's talk about, for example, what can I take as a good example? I can take a very simple example of a smartphone, team. So let's say that you want to send a WhatsApp message to a group. Okay, to do that, what do? You see in the screen and you start typing in your keypad, right? Your touchscreen keypad, and so you type and you hit the enter key. All the characters you type, or the smileys or whatever you type, and you hit the enter key. Or you could also be doing steps where you're just reading. You're not pressing any button there. All you're doing is read one message. Now, even if you scroll, you're giving an input to scroll up or down. So as long as you're not touching and performing anything and just observing, that could be an action where there's no input to it. So for example, clicking on calculate in this case is you're doing one activity. It does not matter what information you give into it. It is the same thing. You're gonna, anytime you do it, you'll click on calculate, irrespective of, be it there's no more specific value or data that you need to provide to be able to click on calculate. It is a constant step. It will never change. That's the kind of steps that you will like read the text. It is a constant text. But when it comes to typing, you want to be able to type something different. Now, next one comes is, once we click on calculate, we will read or capture the monthly payment. All right. Finally, we will verify the monthly payment. Is this correct or not? Okay. For this, we don't know the value yet, but we know that once we get it, this is expected. This is what we would expect for this. And this is what we will test when we get into the next session. So this is one test case that we have built so far, team. And depending on that test case, what are the steps, we have put them here. Now, when we come back on Monday, we're going to go and see how we could translate this into a code do one more test case in a similar fashion, and be able to write a very comfortable UFT code that will work very quickly. Okay, and that is how we will go about progressing. And by the end of these 13 steps that I've put here, you will really be so comfortable with the whole thing that you know that yes, it is easy to learn. It is also extremely interesting to learn these automation tools, and you will master this towards the end of this course. Right? That is the goal that I have. That is the vision that I have, and I'm glad you're all sharing the same thing, and that's why we're here today. So we've done a little bit progress here. So 35% I'll say here, and detailed test steps just about 15%. So we are making progress on it. As we get closer to 100% for each of this, our project is done. The first one at least. All right, team. I'm open for questions. I know just hardly a couple of minutes left, but this is my suggestion when it comes to questions, team. Number one, your questions must be relevant till the extent of what sessions we have done so far. Okay, so you cannot go ahead and ask me a question that may be coming in the future. You may not be aware, but then I'll let you know that yes, you will get an answer, but later in the future. Number two, please make it relevant to the training. Don't ask me about schedules or will you send these files or anything that is, for example, payment related and so on. Take it offline with my team. We have a good support team, technical team, admin team, sales team. They will help you with those questions. Okay, just want to clarify so that we have a good understanding of how these sessions are going to run. All right, let's see. We can get these documents that you're creating. Absolutely, you will get access to the folder itself. We will add all these premium members to the folder, and you can start downloading directly from there. Can we use the retail test case steps template and use it in ALM manual testing? Absolutely, but again, Amir, irrelevant to what we're doing. We're not focusing on ALM at all in this, so it's irrelevant. But the fact is, it is the same concept, irrespective if you do it in a Google Sheet, in a simple paper napkin, or if you put it into ALM, it is still those steps. It has similar inputs that are needed to be able to execute it. When will we have access? Ankur, Manoj will be able to help in that, and he will send it across. We will learn also KDF and hybrid frameworks in this course. Yes. Can you share the Google Drive? Yes. UFT installation will be shown in the next session? No. There's nothing for me to show UFT installation, team. As part of the welcome pack, all those details come to every premium member and you can take it from there. But the easiest thing for you to do is just visit hp.com, search for unified functional testing. Okay, unified functional testing. So automation testing trial, unified software. This is PDF. So click on this first one. Let's see. Quick Test Pro is the earlier version. Now it's unified functional testing trial. So we are at the unified functional testing trial version. It's a 30-day trial, and you can click on free trial or start your UFT trial now. It'll download all that is needed, and then it's straightforward implementation from there. You just have to go about clicking on the process. So I'm going to take this link. I will put it up here so you all have access to it too. That's the URL for it. Okay. All right. What next, team? How can I get this? So as I said, Riyaz, Satish, everyone else, Google Drive will be shared with the premium members. Once you're a premium member, we will start sharing it over the weekend or before day 2, so you'll automatically get it. So for example, during day 2 you still don't have access to it, send an email to techhelp@itlearn.com and the team will be able to address it, or even learn. Any email you send, the team will automatically divert it to the correct one. Are you going to provide us the link for download? Yes, I just did. Is the recording available in 24 hours? Typically much sooner. So what happens with these recordings are, I record the session as they happen. After the session ends, the recordings get converted into a good format. Then we need to take it and upload it into our hosting, either the cloud hosting or YouTube for free videos. Then once the upload is completed, they have get it embedded into the, not embedded, they get encoded into a specific format that so that you can view it from any mobile device and location. Finally, we have to take that and put it on the website where we embed it onto the website, and then you get an access. So it's a typically about 3 to 4 hours access if we do it end to end. But there are different people who do each of these activities in my team. Sometimes it's delayed to the maximum of 24 hours. We get the videos up. Is the end date 4/24 only limited to this? Yes. So that end date of 4/24, 24th April is limited to project 1. Then we get into project 2, project 3. And I think we'll have about 4 projects in total that we will do as part of this overall training team. What is the UFT version we're going to cover? The latest one. Whatever is the latest one on the website, we're going to take that. Kaigati, can't we put all MC basic TC001 step in one row? Is it necessary to make 8 steps? Good question, Supriya. It is, because for me, then when we execute this, I can have a new field here called result, and I will say that is this, am I able to open the website, yes or not? I'll say yes, then I'll say pass. Okay, let us say I'm able to enter home value, loan, interest, and so on. Yes. Let's say calculate button is missing and this is a fail. Okay, then no longer are these other steps important because it's a fail either way. So I am able to look at a step level and see what failed. At a high level, my test case also, for example, now failed. Why did my test case fail? Because at least one step in that test case has failed. That is why the overall test case failed. In test steps, I can go in and see at a detailed level as to where it failed. Oh, it failed here. So for us to be able to analyze which step in the whole process of execution has failed. It's just like a your how you go about preparing for, let's say, an exam, and let's say we come up with a result where certain topics we have failed or we missed something. So we know exactly when we plan it that this is how we do preparation, then we know where it is failing. All right, that's the reason. I have QTP 9.0 on my machine. 9.0 is very antic, Syed. So at least try and get to 10. You can do a little bit of practice on 9.0 with a lot of things, but there are significant changes since then. What is Google Drive? Good question. So team, I'm sorry, got a little extended. The only reason I start very 5 minutes late, team, is a lot of people have these issues connecting to go to webinar. So once I start the session, then the issues creep up for people. So it is not that the issues are there before. So they may all join on time, but then it takes about 3 to 4 minutes for them to get used. That's why we started late. So it's got a little extended. So bear with me for 2 minutes and we'll be done. Syed, so Google Drive is basically a kind of a feature that Google has come up with. One of the features that we predominantly use is google.com as a search engine. The other one is gmail.com as an email service. Google Drive is a similar thing where I can create files like Word documents or files like Excel sheets, and be able to share it with specific people. So now it is Karthik who's accessing, and Karthik is able to make changes to it. As we start adding more members to it, you will see how this Google Drive will become, for example, Mat Live Project 015. Here you will see there are so many members who have access to this. What can these members do? Each of them are able to access. In fact, if you see even the videos that we do, we are putting it here. Most 2 members, for example. Okay, so there are different folders here, different documents. So Manoj can go and change this contact list. I can also go and change. Everyone can change. So we give specific rights as to who can edit, who cannot, and you also see how the recent activity has been, who has changed something recently, and so on. So it's a great feature where we can collaborate with our project team members and do work together. It helps us to better manage our documentation and better collaborate with everyone else who are working in the same project. So I hope I gave you the explanation. I'm assuming that it's good enough for you to understand what Google Drive is, please. Okay, before scripting starts, will there be walkthrough of the tool? Yes, of course. But Purandar, the way I will approach is this. If I need to do a walkthrough of the tool, again, it will become very theoretical. This is the menu bar, this is the space bar, this is the tab key, and so on. Why do we need to do that? As we have a requirement, we will start doing it. For example, let's say I'm teaching you how to become a mechanic. So I won't get you in and start showing you every tool in it and say this is what it does, this is what it does. No. So we'll say the first time, let's say we have we need to change the spare of a car. So just tools related with that, we're gonna see. I'm gonna show you. Okay, now how do you use a jack? How do you use a spanner? How do you turn the tires or the bolts? How do you remove it and so on? So that tomorrow, let's say someone comes for an engine oil change, and I'll say that okay, now how do we do a change of oil? What tools we need for that? So that way, I will expose it to you. As we do each and every project, you will start seeing many new features of the tool getting exposed. Which one is the actual result and expected result? Good question, Sefa. So we'll come to it. In this format, what we're doing is we're not trying to put actual and expected. It is very simple. In this case, we are saying that we want to go through a flow and we will execute it this way. When you get to that level, we'll actually say that home value is supposed to be available as a field so that we can enter the information. So that is one step. That is the actual. Then expected, pass or fail. So we're trying to keep it as simple as is it a pass or is it a fail? Then if it failed, why it failed? So as we go along, you will understand how we approach that. Let's see where are the other questions. There is this question and answer. Okay. All right, team. Almost towards the end. Yes, we will talk about that, Sefa. Which test case writing tool is suggested to write test cases? As we need all our test cases to be started writing from test suite level. Correct. So any tool is fine. You can do it even in a simple Excel, or you could use your Jira, Bugzilla, ALM kind of tools, which help you in your defect and test management. Or you could use simple like this Google spreadsheets so that it's easy for you to share with everyone else. Okay. The emphasis that I am trying to throw is more in the depth of details that you need to do. A lot of clarity on our plan and how we organize our test cases and steps. And then comes the automation. So we're going to go in a very, very organized manner. All right, team, that's it for today. Thank you so much for your extended patience through the session, a little over an hour. What we will do is when we meet on Monday, we will take it where we left today and make sure that we make our quick progress to the project one. Thank you all once again for attending. Appreciate it. We'll see you back on Monday. Have a great weekend. Take care, everyone. Thank you.